same page.
Jordan said hey.
Hey, Jordan. Are we on?
We're on.
All right, good. Good evening, everybody. Good to see you guys. Good to have another week where we can jump into some Bible study. I really don't have a whole lot of announcements right now. I'm just kind of waiting to see. I can tell you this, though. I can't wait for next Wednesday. Ask me why.
Wow.
Because there won't be any more political ads.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited. I don't care who wins, who loses. Just won't be any more ads. I'm so tired of people talking trash about each other. That's one reason why I don't think I'll ever be able to run for any kind of office, even though I was going to be president of the United States. But and I've still got like 20 years to catch up with these guys. But if they start looking in my past and start talking about trash about me, I might be offended. So I probably won't. But I think that when I can understand most people are healthy. I don't know if you guys have heard or not. And some of you guys will know who I'm talking about, and some people won't. But Elder Nance passed away, and they're going to do graveside service on Saturday at Oakwood at 11 o'clock. He just had a tragic accident.
What happened?
He just had a tragic accident. He was going outside to put some stuff out for his family for this weekend. They were going to have a party, a get together, and he slipped and fell and hit his head on the cement. And,
Oh, goodness.
it was quick. I talked to Matt last night. They're all coming in Saturday, so if you want to see the Nance family, for those of you who might come on, they said they'd love to see everybody. 11 o'clock on Sunday at Oakwood.
No, Saturday.
Saturday, Sunday 11 o'clock. Well, you bet you should be here. All right. So tonight we're back in Proverbs. We're all the way into chapter 16, and it looks like with the way this pandemic is going, that getting to 31, we might get to 31 and get through it and go back to Mark about the time this pandemic ends. Maybe that's what it is. We're trying to be wise. Anyway, before we get started, let's open with a word of prayer, and then we're going to jump right in. Lord God, I thank you for this day, for sunshine, for rain, Lord, for warm air, for cool air, all the things that you just created. Lord, I just recognize that today, and I just acknowledge that you are the God of the universe, the creator of everything. Lord, you have a plan, and I wish it'd be great if we had that crystal ball, but thank you for leading us and guiding us and letting us choose you. Lord, may we continue to do that. As we come into Bible study tonight, Lord, I just ask you would open our hearts and our minds, and you would send the Holy Spirit to help us to understand what your word says. And then might we use it in our everyday lives to love you with all of our heart and our soul and our mind, and then love our neighbors as we love ourselves. I praise in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, starting we're starting in chapter 16. Everybody there? We're going to start in verse 23. Let's give Ron a chance to get to it in his Bible.
I'm ready.
He's ready. He says he's ready.
Ready.
All right, everybody ready? Here we go. Who's reading?
The hearts of the wise make their mouths prudent, and their lips the heart comes.
Some people get confused by that because the heart's just an organ that pumps blood to the body, but without the heart, what happens? We die. We can't survive. But also in 2020, when we talk about the heart, when we talk about the heart of a person, we're not really talking about the organ itself. We're talking about their attitude, their soulfulness, their who they are, and what they believe, and how they act, and how they treat each other. There's a big difference too. I mean, when you think about this in Christianity, there's a lot of people who have, you can have a heart for the Word, but never learn anything from it. It's what you put in there. You can study and study and study. The Sadducees and the Pharisees, that was two groups of people who, and they knew the Bible, up and down, but their hearts weren't in the right place. They just had head knowledge. Right? So the heart really doesn't have a brain, but it has the soul of the person that uses it. If you put all of that knowledge into your mind, it doesn't do any good, because until you actually get into your heart, heart because we say that your heart is what gives you your purpose or tells you what to do with this knowledge. Right? Everybody with me there? Okay. And then, but it says the heart of the wise, mine says teaches his mouth. What did you say?
The hearts of the wise make their mouths prudent.
All right. So that means that if you've got a good heart, then what comes out of your mouth will be wise. Guidance. I can see that too. Why do you think sometimes, though, I see some people who look like they have a really good heart, but then I hear some things that come out of their mouth and it's not necessarily so. But then again, it happens to me as well. So, it sounds like to me, though, before we speak, we should really check ourselves. Because Solomon tells us this, it's all over the Bible. Solomon says it over and over and over again, too, about words are pretty important. Words can, it says it's like a two-edged sword. So I think we have to be careful of that. But I also think this, that as we condition our heart with wisdom and love, and I got to throw that in there because God is love. But if we condition our heart with love and wisdom, then what comes out of our mouth will be love and wisdom. Right? And that's exactly what he's saying right here. But, and the guidance part, I think, comes in the second part of this, because this is a one piece. And it says, and their lips promote instruction. I've got, and adds learning to his lips. It says, God says, wisdom is shown by a heart and mind that are continually learning. When learning is added to the lips, that means the words that one says, then a person truly has wisdom and is growing in it. Does that make sense? So, the thing, and we see this, I like to talk to you guys because I'm talking to the body of Christ here. One of the things that we know too is, I love seeing our young people over here because I would think that they don't quite know as much as some of the more experienced people in here. Did y'all notice I did that?
Yeah.
Right?
Wise.
That was a wise. See, my heart's getting better. I'm getting smarter. But with that though too, is that, and I've watched a lot of people in our church the same way. As we continue to learn more about the Word, it seems that our heart changes and the words that come out of our mouth are better. And we're able to talk to people a little more intelligently. We're able to, you see the same thing when a little tiny baby is born and first start talking. They can't hardly make out the sounds and they struggle with everything. I look at Danny over here and, 3 or 4 years ago, Danny didn't quote a whole lot of scripture. But don't mess with him now. He'll put you to shame. Because he's been working on it. And the things that come out of his mouth are part of that learning part of that. And so it's neat to see that happen. I've seen it happen with a lot of people in our church. I mean, John can probably tell you the same thing about, it's been 22 years ago now, I guess, when we started Bible study. I didn't know Jack. But we kept...
You had Samiology, you had that.
I had Samiology, and I was good at it. But because of those things, because our heart says that we need to get in and learn, that we yearn for this Word, it helps the things that come out of our mouth to be more godlike, to be Christ-like in how we speak, and also smart, wise. All right, good. We good? All right, let's move on. This next one makes me hungry.
Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones.
Everybody knows what a honeycomb is, right? It's not the cereal. They didn't have honeycomb cereal when this was written. But the honeycomb is actually where the honey is housed inside of a beehive. And so if pleasant words are like a honeycomb, that means they are sweet. And that's real sweet. Anybody ever tasted straight honey? Mm-hmm. It's sweet, like sweet. I like it. It's one of my favorites. But But it says sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. How can that be? How is it sweet to the soul?
So it makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good. Exactly. It's a whole lot better. Doesn't everybody feel good when somebody speaks pleasantly to you? It's even better. I'm going to go a little bit further and say, isn't it great when somebody encourages you or recognizes you? If that's the case, and it says right here that gracious words are a honeycomb, or pleasant words are like a honeycomb, then what we should try to do is, do you like for people around you to feel good? Me too. So it's a whole lot better. I learned this in marriage a long time ago, that I can get a whole lot more accomplished and my life is a whole lot better if I use gracious words and pleasant words than if I don't. Would everybody agree with that?
Yes, no, thank you.
And so,
Yes, dear.
Yes, yes, sweetie, I agree with that.
so it makes you feel good, but how is it healthy to the bone? I mean, that's what he says right here. It says, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Anybody?
I guess it makes you feel good physically.
I think you're exactly right. Well, the thing is, I think that people, when they feel good, they feel good, right? It's healthy. It's healthier to feel good than it is to feel crappy all the time. And if somebody's always beating you down and somebody's always degrading you, we talk about, especially we talk about kids and when they grew up and how that they were verbally abused, and we always talk in church about how a lot of people hold things for a long time in life, and one of the things especially is when their parents have just downgraded them or just berated them the whole time. It seems to me that what Solomon is saying here is that it's better to be pleasant with your words, that it's healthy, it's pleasing, and it makes people happy.
Laughter's the best medicine.
Yeah.
And you think when you visit somebody in the hospital and you come all hang-dog and sad that they're sick, that doesn't make them feel any better. But you come in and you cheer them up and you pleasant words, I mean, they feel better. Their vital signs get better, everything gets better.
Well, it's odd that you would say that, because especially in the first part of my ministry, when I became a minister, one of the hardest things for me was a hospital, because and funerals, because my outward look on life is loud, obnoxious, and laughing. And those aren't normally places that you go and do that. I had to train some things out of my brain, but I found that it's just better to be yourself, and everything will be okay. When you just bring yourself. There's no point in trying to hide things or make yourself somebody different. But that's a hard thing sometimes, is to figure out when and where. All right, let's move on to 25. We're going to get through all of 16 tonight. You watch.
There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death.
What'd you say?
I said that's a famous passage.
That is a famous passage. All right, there's a way that seems right to man, which means what?
It looks good to us.
It looks good to us, right? We think it's and sometimes it's really funny, because sometimes we do that anyway. We'll talk about that in just a second, but what this is saying is that there's a way that we go sometimes that seems really right to us, but in the end, it's not. My Bible study says some people walk a path of life that they know is wrong, and many proverbs speak to that person. But there's others who walk a path of life that seems right to them, and they're mistaken. It isn't enough to feel good about a path or to follow our heart on life's way. God's revelation word is always truer and safer than what seems right to man. So, how do we discern that? I mean, if you were telling me that, if you were trying to explain this to somebody who outside the church, doesn't know a whole lot, what would you say to this person? So how do I figure that out? How do I understand God's revelation? If it seems right to me, and I feel like that's the way it's supposed to go, how do I discern God's revelation?
First, you need to pray about it.
pray about it. I like that.
You should also put yourself in the shoes of whoever will be affected by the decision. Like whatever decision you're making, as far as like going down a path.
What's the domino effect?
Who is it going to affect? And if it's going to affect somebody negatively, then that's probably not the direction you're supposed to be going.
Because that's probably not the godly way.
Exactly.
I like that explanation. No right or wrong answers. I'm just playing the question guy because I want us to discuss it. Because that's a big deal. You know, there's a lot of people out there who think sometimes that they're doing what God has called them to do, or they're doing, I don't want to say call. They're doing something that they think God is telling them to do, but it's really not. How do we discern it?
I saw something the other day, and it was talking about how God is not a God of confusion. And so if you're in a situation where you're trying to make a decision, or if something is the right thing to do, and you're continually asking God, is this right? I don't know if this is right. I think it might be, going back and forth with that, then it's probably not, because he's not going to confuse you and do all of those things. And so almost when it's more clear, I think is...
And see, and I like that, but I wish I could be more like that. Because usually I'm like, all right, God, you open this door, I'm going through.
Right.
I used to tell my boys all the time, if you have to say to yourself, if it's right or wrong, it's wrong.
Right.
You will know if it's right. And, I mean, this passage can also go towards non-believers. We could get into a whole thing on moral relativism, where it seems good to man, but it's not God's will, and then they go down terrible paths. I mean, you can decide what's right for you, I can decide what's right for me. If there's no legitimate right and wrong, no truth, then it's wrong for both.
Correct. I like that.
I like what Maddie said, if it's not, you know, if it's, God is not a God of confusion and disorganization, and, you know, he's a God of peace. And if you're feeling no peace about something, then chances are you should look at it better and get a better idea of whether or not it's right.
I totally especially get this as an individual. But it's amazing to get a group of people like this. You know, that's a hard thing to do, to where everybody agrees that you hardly ever, whether it's right or wrong, you almost never get everybody to agree to the same exact path. It doesn't make sense.
Well, you made a good point in your sermon a couple of weeks ago about the one thing we're going to agree on is the gospel and what the Lord did. I mean, we can argue about the carpet and organ and all that stuff, which doesn't save anybody, but you said, and it's true, you have
What are you
to
trying
have.
to say about our organ and our corporate?
But, I mean, the things that are important have to be primary, have to be what matters. And the things that are peripheral, where how we worship, the songs we sing,
Why he doesn't wear a suit.
why he doesn't wear a suit, what time we worship. Can we worship at 11? Can we worship at 6:30? Can we worship at 8:30? All those things are peripheral, and they don't save you. But as long as you keep the gospel primary, then you're in good shape.
I agree. And I think God will bless that and lead us in the right path. I think that's got a lot to do with it too, is that to answer part of my own question is how do you discern which way God's trying to take you? When you're in relationship with God, when you're really in tune with what you do is His way. It's not necessarily the man.
I think we just ask ourselves, does it honor God?
Oh, that's a great way to look at it too. Because if it doesn't, we probably shouldn't do it too.
Yeah.
But it also says, it's kind of scary though, because it says in the end it leads to death. Meaning, what do you think that means?
I believe maybe because if it's not God's way, you're really not going to have Him in your heart. And so in the end, you're not going to heaven.
Ooh.
It makes me think about, those people who go to church every Sunday and go to all the Bible studies and go and do all the right things, but not for the purpose of sharing the gospel or doing anything about it, just as a checklist or whatever. And those are the people that we talk about, you'll be surprised that they're not in heaven. That kind of scenario is kind of what this makes me think of.
That's a good perspective too. Anybody else have a perspective on it? Because, and the reason that I bring this up is because, I don't know about you guys in life, there's been a lot of times where I thought I was going the right way and it was not. Or, I don't know if I thought I was going the right, it's the right way for me. And I ended up not. But I'm not dead. You know, I mean, people will ask things like that because that's what it says. But I think part of what this means is that the inconvenience, or, you know, once you get to where you're going, the things that become an abomination to your life, they're hardly ever temporary. You know, it's something that lasts a long time, and death is not a temporary thing. But in the end, if you stay on that path, and you can destroy yourself. And just like Mike and Maddie both said, that it could be you just don't end up in heaven and you have eternity. But all of that goes back to the gospel message. If you know Jesus, then that's not the way it is. All right, we're going to 26. Y'all ready? Here we go. Read it.
The laborer's appetite works for him. His hunger drives him on.
And what version of the Bible do you have?
International.
Read that again.
The laborer's appetite works for him. His hunger drives him on.
Okay. Anybody else got a different version?
Mine says the appetite of the laborers works for them. Their hunger drives them on. Almost the same thing, but appetite and labor is reversed.
Verse.
Okay.
Mine's the same.
Yeah.
God, the ESV version, it says the person who labors for himself, for his hungry mouth drives him on. Should have brought the King James.
That would really clear it up.
What does this mean? The appetite of the labor works for him. What does it mean?
Sounds like if you're hungry enough, you'll work to get food.
I mean, I think it means what it says.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just work and you get fed. And the reason that you keep on working is because why?
Stay hungry.
Because you're hungry, right? That's what that appetite word is about.
Okay.
When if you got an appetite, that means you're hungry.
Do you think he really meant food?
Oh, it could mean anything, couldn't it?
A lot. I just,
Yeah. If,
I mean, that's a loaded question, I guess, but.
if you have an appetite for a family, you work hard at your relationship, you
Exactly.
work hard for your children.
So if a man doesn't work, he shall not eat. This is, let me find it, that his appetite drives him home to hunger, but if he doesn't work,
He don't
he don't eat.
The Bible study guide says this. It says the Bible recognizes the principle of personal property and that the reward of work properly belongs to the worker. So labors for himself is what that means, right? It says this argues against schemes of forced communal living either on a small or national scale. It also argues against excessive taxation because it does not say the person who labors for his government. He labors for himself. And it says mine says hungry mouth, the hunger drives him on. It says that when people are rewarded with the benefit of their own work, they know that their work can fill their hungry mouth. When it isn't necessary to work in order to fill a hungry mouth, much less work will be done. Anybody here can vouch for that? John, you can. You run a business, I know, you used to teach school. Without the reward, how much work got done? Coach, you coach, same thing. If there's no reward, the work gets slacker. So we've all been there, right?
What's the point?
Yeah. But when it's something that you hunger for, then you work for yourself. So going back to who asked if it was about food? That was you. It doesn't necessarily mean about food because when I think about this in other places too, where I have worked before because I love, like, I come to work every day now because I love what I do. And the hunger that I have isn't about the money, it's not even about the job, it's about people and the word, which makes this, like, I love going to work. I feel sorry for people I feel sorry for myself of some old jobs that I did work. And I know people who struggle going to work. But I do know that the jobs that I've had over time that I really, really like, guess what? I work hard. I didn't mind going to work. So I think too, in this, there's a lesson here too, is that you should do the things that make you hungry to continue to do. And with that, your reward is more than just food. It's the appetite of purpose. It's the appetite of, it could be the appetite of fulfillment. It could be the appetite of
Family.
I think about,
That's what John just was saying too.
yeah,
Like if you're hungry, like if something you're hungry for is like to have a family, you're gonna work harder at relationships.
yes,
You know?
agreed. We good on that one?
I think I'm gonna have a drive. I want to win, so I want to win right here. So I do my devotions, you know, so I really read this right here.
Right, so it's like practice, in order that you might win the race.
Win the race, we want to win the race. you
Yeah,
know.
we've talked about that many times.
So that's the drive I have is doing devotions every day, once or twice a day. And, you know, just be prepared. Same thing with softball, we try to be prepared with this all the way through from empty the trash can to mowing the grass to all the, you got that drive. You gotta have that drive.
Right.
When young kids, like on the softball team, see that, you don't really know right then how are affecting them, but down the road, that, you can't duplicate that, you know? It's in their mind forever, and they'll pick it up. If they don't know now, they'll see it down the road.
And that's a great example of working with young kids. Think about your parents, you know? My daddy, I know that he did not like going to work for 16 hours a day when I was young and he was on there. But he loved me enough to do it. And that was his hunger to keep going to work every day. Because that had to be hard. So, you know, those kind of things help us to see the results of what our labor. I think about a farmer, right? A farmer works. It's really crazy because let's take an apple orchard for example. They start working and pruning and everything else like in February or March, and it's October before they actually get apples. But there's a lot of work to go. It doesn't just pop up. You know, that only reason I thought about that because the term "fruit of your labor" came to my mind, and I think one of the things that makes us hungry for what we do is the result that we might get. So, all right, move to 27.
A scoundrel plots evil, and his speech is like a scorching fire.
What is a scoundrel?
Mine says a worthless man.
A worthless man. So, Ron, you don't want the word scoundrel. Stick with prudent. Now, if we walk around church sometimes and you see somebody and say, man, that's a dirty scoundrel. There's only a certain group of people that know what we're talking about. Jim said it's a worthless man, man. Got anything else?
Ungodly is what
Ungodly. I've got that too. It says the sense is that for the ungodly man, the evil he casually finds isn't enough to satisfy his desire. So, a scoundrel plots evil would also mean an ungodly man, or a worthless man digs up evil, or plots evil, tries to plan evil. I can see that somebody who plans evil is definitely an ungodly man. But this second part, and on their lips it is like a scorching fire.
Well, fire fire is inflammatory, and the words he's saying are destructive to everybody around.
Hmm.
Saying
No, I think that's good.
that, you know, inflammatory, it'll hurt anybody that's around it.
Well, and most of the time too, somebody who does evil, do they usually keep it to themselves? No, and like Mike said, it spreads like a fire. So, my, yeah. And that's what it says here, the simile of his speech is like scorching fire, is that he speaks of the devastating effect of his words. That's good. All right, let's move to 28.
A perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends.
Can anybody attest to that?
The show.
What is a perverse person? You know, most of the time, and the reason I bring that up is because most of the time, if you hear the word perverse, you think of
Pervert.
pervert, right? Is that what this is talking about?
I think it means a person that has like really like devilish thoughts.
Ooh, good.
Mine says a contrary person.
A contrary person is what yours says. Anybody else say anything?
Well, King James says something, but I don't know what that word is.
I didn't
Froward?
hear that. What's
She said the King James Version says a different word, but she doesn't know what it
It's
is.
froward, F-R-O-W-A-R-D, froward?
Froward.
Well, but it's not forward, it's F-R-O.
It's froward.
Froward.
That was my word of the day.
Maybe it's a typo, it's supposed to be forward, I don't know.
It's not.
No, it's not.
It's an actual word.
Forward?
Forward?
I'm assuming it means perverse.
But yeah, I think it means perverse.
Tomorrow, if you see somebody you don't like,
Yeah.
you say that word.
Froward, you mean so froward.
He's very forward.
So, it's a bad person. Let's go with that. Being a perverse person is not good. I think it means that it's twisted. Maybe somebody that's kind of twisted in their thoughts would be perverse. But it says that they love to stir up. Mine says love to sow conflict, strife. Y'all know those people? Y'all know people in your lives that try to stir up conflict and strife. But it says right here, also, not only does that person do this, but what is a gossip? I got another version that calls it a whisperer. Ooh, I like that, don't you?
Slanderer.
Yours says slanderer, I like that. What else? Hey, Julissa, I didn't mean not to speak to you. You doing okay back there? Good. All right. So what is a gossip or a whisperer or a slanderer? What does that mean?
Just spread things around. They do it like really sneaky.
Oh. Okay.
Well, now they've got such a forum with Facebook and all that stuff, and Twitter, I assume, Instagram, I don't know. But
Instagram, Snapchat.
yeah, I mean, you have such a forum now to do gossip, to do things that separate people, to be mean to people, and almost be anonymous about it. Feel quite safe about doing it. And the thing that gets me is people put stuff online that's there forever. And they make these decisions when you're 14, 15, 16 that come back to haunt them years later. I mean,
Well, it said, it may seem right to you
yeah,
at
it
the
is.
time, but it'll end up in destruction.
I would, gosh, if I could say anything to young people, be guard yourselves online. Don't put stuff out there that's mean and divisive and
So you think a gossip is somebody that's mean and divisive,
wants to sow division, yes.
okay? Anybody else want to give an answer on what a gossiper is? Or a whisperer or a slanderer?
We usually think of gossip as being something false, but it's not always the case. I mean, gossip can be the
Easy and Elvini standing out there. Y'all remember that cartoon? Where the two old ladies were standing out by the fence, hanging up clothes, and they were going back and forth talking, gossiping. You think about, I think about my granny sometimes. She could talk to anybody about everything,
I think my
you know. But it wasn't really gossip. It was just we're telling everything. But
Well, and that, like Jim said, it may be true, but it doesn't mean it's right.
correct. But see, it used to be though that's where you did it was out by the fence with your next door neighbor.
Or on the party line.
You know, on the party line. But now you're right. Y'all, you get that? They wouldn't understand it.
You know, one of the saddest days of my grandma's life was when they cut the party line off. of her house.
What he's talking about is at one time in history,
You can hear other people phone calls.
yeah, there was like 7 people on the same phone
Yeah.
at the same time, and it was kind of weird. But
You all had your own ring. You could ring, you could answer it, but other people could answer it. Listen.
it was crazy.
Oh, my grandma loved the party line.
But now it is so easy to be like a slanderer or whisperer because you can do it online. You can do it in. And I'm gonna tell you, you know, there are people who do things that they really didn't think were that bad until somebody else got hold of it and posted it on something else, and then it can destroy. I've seen it destroy careers. I've seen it destroy people's families.
We've had people that applied at Toyota that because the stuff they posted on Facebook, they didn't get the job. We were asking about somebody that applied for it, and they said comments he made on Facebook kept him from getting hired.
And look, I say the same thing to our staff. There could be, if we were to do something crazy like that, and we try not to, there's people who might not come to church.
Just use some discernment, you know. Just discernment.
Sure.
If it's not,
Be prudent what you say.
there you go.
Right.
Don't be froward.
Or a scoundrel.
There you go.
But,
And don't be following.
exactly. Nobody wants to hang around a bunch of followers. But it stirs, so this person stirs up conflict, and then the gossip separates close friends. Does that make sense to everybody? It separates close friends. Why would it do that? I mean, are you close enough with somebody that no matter what somebody said to them about you, it didn't change anything?
I don't think so.
I think whoever says something to the other person about me, if they like me enough, they probably won't believe it anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I think we need to surround ourselves with people like that.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that are trying to separate these things. They're trying to cause conflict in order that they can separate friendships and separate other things. You know, no offense, but I think about girls in middle school. Look, I see shaking head, I see all kinds of things. Girls in middle school, man, they create drama in order to separate friends. I mean, it's almost like he wrote this to eighth grade girls. But I need to remember this verse and put it in my pocket for that group of people. But it makes me think of that. All right, let's move to 29. We still got a few more minutes.
A violent person entices their neighbor and leads them down a path that is not good.
What do y'all think about that? A violent man, what does that mean? When I think about violence, I'm thinking about somebody who's going to just tear some stuff up. Or hurt somebody, or start a fight or something.
Yeah, but it can also mean here, I mean, he could be violent when he leads down that neighbor down the wrong path. That's violent to that person.
Well,
Even
sometimes,
if
though,
not
but
hurt.
I think you can look at this both ways, because sometimes it can be, when somebody does something like that, and it seems like that, hey, I might join him and go do the same thing, but I think what it means more than that is that if I jump on you, you're going to jump back on me. And most of the time in the same way or worse. So if it's bad, and you get worse, he's taking you with him down a path that you don't want to go. What do I mean?
Violent doesn't have to be physical either, it can be verbal.
Sure. I think that's probably the strongest one.
The whole mob mentality type thing, where people do stuff they wouldn't normally do, or say things they wouldn't normally say, because it's,
Because somebody said something about me.
yeah.
I'm gonna do them a deal. I'm gonna get them back. But I think that's exactly what happens. And when you get them back, you're just going down the same path. And that's not good. But here's a question: how do we prevent violence? How do we prevent this from happening?
Work on that fortitude.
Hard to.
How do you prevent violence?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to prevent violence, but maybe you can prevent further violence.
Okay.
So whatever you initially think about doing back, take a break.
Don't do it.
Think about it again.
Is that the
Think
Bible
about it
says
some more.
sometimes it takes strength
To not.
to not.
So it's not violence, but further violence, I think is the answer.
Yeah.
Or don't surround yourself with violent people, or people who are, or things that are violent.
Well, and let's use the word bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because violence sounds like it's
Yeah,
humongous
don't hang around bad people.
bad thing. We'll call it big bad thing.
Yeah.
But don't try to do to somebody else what you know is not good.
And it takes a lot of strength to be the one good person in a bunch of bad, so you either are that strong or else you better hang around with people who are gonna take you down a path that's a lot better.
Paul says if not, you need to turn and
You
run.
do, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna be hanging around with people who get into bad situations, you gotta stop hanging around with people who get in bad situations.
Because they will lead you down the wrong path. All right, I like it. Here we go, we're going to third. I love it.
He who winks with his eye is plotting perversity. He who purses his lips is bent on evil. Is that why you were winking at me the other side?
I don't know, that's how we transfer somebody. Or, wait, watch this. This other translation says he winks his eye to devise perverse things. Anybody else got, what's your got, Gene? What's yours? That's what yours says? Ron, what's yours say?
Same thing Mike said.
Who's got something different? What's yours say, Josh?
Mine says, whoever winks with their eyes plotting perversity, whoever purses their lips is bent on evil.
That's the same as you.
Yeah. All right, so let's break it down. So winks with their eye means, everybody do it?
I think maybe
I'm trying to plot perverse.
insinuating something.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, he's an
It says right here, this is likely connected to the previous verse, which we just read, that he may entice his neighbor as he winks his eye, or treating it as a light and clever thing. You know, and then to devise perverse things. How do you devise perverse things? When I think about that, I think about some of these shows I've seen where, you know, 4 people get together and everybody's handed a mask and a gun and we say, hey, look, we're going to this bank. We're going to make a withdrawal. It's too much TV right there. But what do you think it means to devise a perverse plan?
Could be like it says, I mean, you're planning something, so I'm gonna let you know I'm planning it. But if you actually talk about it and act out on it, then that's just pure evil. It's like 2 steps.
Oh, check. Here's a new word for you. Listen to this. It says right here, it says to devise perverse things means wicked men are great students. They beat their brains and close their eyes that they may revolve and excogitate mischief, whatever that is, with more freedom of mind. They search the devil's skull for new devices and are very inventive to invent that which may do harm. Well, you know, you think think about somebody's school shootings, bomb making. By the way, some theologian in the trap used all those words. Those were not my words. I don't even know what I don't know if I've ever seen the excogitate. But anyway, that's what he says. It says, with expressions of contempt, the violent man brings about evil. He does not seriously consider the bad effects of his actions. Often people who are planning wicked things betray themselves with malicious expressions. Two expressions are depicted here: winking the eye and pursing the lips. Facial expressions often reveal whether someone is plotting something evil. Would you agree with that? What you talking about, Lewis? I think I can go with that. I can buy it. We good? We kind of understand what we're talking about? All right, let's move.
31's about me.
Hey, look, he read that. He had to read the second part of that to get through it. I appreciate that, Ron.
Gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is obtained by a righteous life. What do you do if you don't have?
That's what I was about to say. You don't even have any.
I don't. So gray hair is good. What do you think that means?
I like gray
Mine
hair.
says back then, the elderly were to receive respect from the younger with their gray hair.
Yes, because they were considered to be.
Why?
You were supposed to use a different word. He said wise.
Prudent, sorry.
That's right. You were supposed to be prudent. But I mean, the thing is if you live long enough, golly, if you live long enough to get gray hair.
He's the golly guy.
But well, I didn't realize this was that silver.
Hey, you're getting
Sammy,
close.
that was online.
I'm sorry.
It's out there forever.
It's there forever. Thank you, Sammy.
Hey, look, you should be thanking me. That was a compliment.
Yeah, you did sound like one. You're winking. I think there was pursing your lips too.
But it says the silver-haired head is a crown of glory. That's what I was telling you, John.
Usually, John, when he's he's a little lower than you actually, so he always sees us around the bottom.
Yeah, around the bottom is
He's
not.
never on stage so he can see the top of it.
But I do think it means that gray hair means that you've lived long enough to be
Yeah.
wise. You've experienced things in life, and especially in this time in history, that was a big thing. That was a big deal, and the young people did respect their elders and the knowledge that they shared. I think some of that gets lost because of things that we see all over the place now, is that there's a lot of people who don't do the right things that are that age. And it makes it hard, it's making it harder and harder for our young people to respect a lot of the older people. Not to be political at all, but since I was talking about that earlier in these campaigns, I mean, I don't ever want to have to talk, I couldn't imagine talking about somebody the way that these people talk about them. Couldn't do it. It's not right. To me, that's not, and these are two old men. They may not have silver hair, but they're supposed to have knowledge. And I don't think that's the way we ought to be. But anyway, what this means is that we should. So that's a challenge to people who are getting, and mine's getting salt and pepper too. But it's a challenge to us as we get older to also be prudent, to be wise in the way that we act, so that we're good examples to those who would look up to us and look at it, because we're supposed to be the ones that are more righteous. All right, 32.
Better a patient man than a warrior, a man who controls his temper than one who takes the city.
Better a patient man than a warrior. Talk to me.
Being more slow to react and understanding the full situation before your consequences mess up a whole lot of people's lives.
That was a great explanation. Anybody else?
Mine says, although one who practices patience and self-control receives far less attention and acclaim than a warrior who takes a city, he accomplishes better
So we should be, what? What's it telling us? That we should be patient?
Control your temper.
Under self-control.
Mine says slow to anger. Yeah, slow to anger. I think when I think about that,
My Bible has a note, I think, that's really good. It says, when you feel yourself ready to explode, remember that losing control may cause you to lose what you did the most.
that's a great note. Y'all know what that feels like? Anybody here ever just popped off?
Life.
I mean, has anybody here ever just been quick to anger?
I had a friend that, this was before during the internet earlier, but he would write letters, he'd get so mad he'd write letters to somebody, but he'd leave it on his desk overnight and go back and read it the next day, and probably 90% of his letters he never sent out.
90% of them in the trash can. You know, when I think of slow to anger, when I was a young man, the phone would ring, and my mom, she was pretty tough, right? But she would answer the phone like, "Hello, can I speak to Sammy? Who is it?" I mean, that was from 0 to anger in less than 2 seconds, you know. So I don't know why that popped in my mind, you know? But that's just what it made me think about. But it says that being patient, slow to anger, is better than being a warrior or mighty or jumping straight to fighting. And he who rules his spirit more so than he who takes a city. Meaning what? One with self-control, it says one with self-control than one who takes a city.
You can control yourself.
If you can control yourself, then you are
Wise.
better off than
One who can.
correct, or one who can take over a city. It may look like that they've done something, but they really haven't. All right, we got one more. We're going to get in there. All right, 33. Let's go.
The lie is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord.
All right, what does that mean the lot is cast into? What? The lot is cast into the lap.
That's what mine says too.
What does that mean?
Well, that's how they used to make decisions, right?
Sometimes, not all.
What's a lot?
Fortune telling.
Yeah.
It says a lot. A lot. But
It's not like drawing the long straw or short straw.
yes, it says that this was something, but it was something similar to rolling of dice. So you casted lots, right? And the cast a lot was to use some tool of chance in order to make a choice. So the lot was used to divide the land of Israel among the tribes and to arrange the workers for the temple. The disciples used lots to fill the vacancy left by Judas. Did you know that?
They cast lots for his robe, right?
Well, they cast lots for Jesus' robe, yes. But the disciples did.
No.
I mean,
But
I thought it was
I just think of
For the
Time.
But a lot of people don't realize that the disciples, in order to choose
Yeah.
Judas' replacement, actually cast lots. You would have thought they said, "Hey, man, this guy."
But you know, that meant the disciples believed that casting lots was the Lord making a decision.
Yes, that's exactly why they
It
did.
wasn't by chance, and that's what it's,
Right, but most of the time, that when we cast lots, we're just taking a,
we're thinking it's chance, but
yeah,
Not like going to Vegas.
Yeah.
Cast-
it is. You know, if everybody knew they were gonna win, they'd all put the money in, wouldn't they? So the lot is cast into the lap. Meaning what? I mean, we figured that out, but what does it mean? You throw it out there.
Throw it on the ground or
You
something.
throw the chance out there to see what's going to stick. But it says, but it's every decision is from the Lord, meaning that it's not by chance.
The illusion of chance.
It's what?
The illusion of
It's
chance.
the illusion of chance.
Not exist.
But you know, I kind of like that
Yeah, me too.
in that there's no responsibility in that. I didn't make that choice. I cast lots for it. I'm gonna use that one in church.
It was common method for determining God's will.
Yes, it was. That's why the disciples did it for Jesus' replacement.
It's pretty wild.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, anybody got anything else about that? That was a tough one to explain right there. Lots. Tonight we learned lots, excogitate, prudent, scoundrel, perversity. What else did we learn tonight? Froward. Froward. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I was definitely looking at that one.
All right. Let's do. We gotta get. Because I know Jim's gonna get practice. Ooh, run close. All right. Here's the prayer list. Think about yours, and you can say them after I say these if they're not on there. I've got Maddie and Mackenzie in Karen's apartment life. Karen Zimmerman in Morocco. She's supposed to be in town sometime. I think in the early spring. Thad Harris, Matt and Jessica Hoffman, Buddy Medlin, Tim Kaysen, Willie Horner, Brenda James, Francis Wright, Rusty Crawford, also Sandra Crawford, Irvin Duckworth, Bo and Vivian Harris, Dennis Blassingame, Chris Carrassi, Ruby Spees, Sue Smith, Betty Yao, Leon Summers, April Kelly, Linda Hampton, Leroy Mitchell, Lanny Falk, Patrick Langley, Nancy Lancaster, Justin Dixon, Terry Norris, Carl Levi, Needham Layton, Ruth Love, Ozetta Bunker, Dylan Hilda Lowry, Otis and Ethel Terrell, George Quasha, John Wayne Kenyon, Johnny Hamby, Francis Roselli, Angela Hall, George Gray, Anita Baker, Wilbur and Barbara Pruitt, Coy and Dean May, Lottie Robertson, Amber Sykes, Doug, Lisa, Barbara's daughter, Andrew Fox, Annette Stokes, Tyler, Kayla, and Baker, Pat Oliver, Keith Hill, Charlie Wilkerson, Archie and Margaret Wilburn, Paul West, Danny and Anita Wilson and their son Jordan, Don Pridgeon, Edna Phillips, Rose Wilkerson, Virginia McGee, Ken Edwards, Bonnie Mayton, Jimmy and Rhonda McCann, April, Dalton Booth, Sheldon Allen, Dennis and Marilyn Carter, Eric Bunker, Martha Collins, Tim Bradley, Ruth Meyer, Josh Schultz, Vivian Cynical, Deborah Saunders, Charlotte Walker, Cole Terrell, Carter Terrell, Marie Terrell, Betty Tripp, Barry Oakley, Lynn McKnight. Please remember all of our staff here, to include Joe up there. If y'all haven't met Joe, Joe's up top. He's our new ABL guy. Please continue to remember all of our deacons, and please be in prayer for our future deacons as we're starting that process. Blanche Woods, Joyce Dickens, Jerry Moore, Marshall and Nancy Martin, Ricky Sox, Sandy, Mims Spar. Was we supposed to take her off? Is she
Yeah.
good?
Yes,
She's doing great. We take her off as a praise. Haley Jordan Wilson, Mike Williams, Dolly Goldstone, Casey Knight, John and Kathy Garrison, Fred York, Danny's dad. He's not doing all that well. We're definitely in prayer for your family. Anybody got any others?
The Nance family is lost to,
Yeah, we mentioned that in the beginning.
and I've got one unspoken.
Okay.
Jordan's list, Kristen and Tyler Franklin, Clayton Smith, the fire department finally got their new truck,
Congratulations, on the fire department.
and her 20th birthday is in November. No, her birthday is November 20th.
Okay. And keep reminding us, Jordan,
Tried
we'll
that.
say happy birthday, I promise. We might even sing it if you look. If you keep watching that long. All right. Anybody else? So who's praying for us tonight?
Stars.
Mike says he'll start. Who'll finish?
I'll finish.
Jim Turner's got to finish. Go, Mike.
Lord, we